One of the things I've always said, and I've always gotten hate for, is when I say that Google uses what's called a pattern matching algorithm. In fact, Google is a pattern matching search engine. And this is something that if you go way back to when Google was originally launched, their algorithm and the patterns they filed for their algorithm, you will see that mainly it matches patterns. But you don't need to believe me on this. You can go and check out the patterns. What I am interested in discussing is Google's latest patent filing. And the latest patent filing, according to Google, is an application for a system that helps identify content that violates its terms of use or terms of service. Usually that would mean that it contains content that's maybe adult content or content that's not feasible for the younger audience to view, or maybe even content that's related to weapons and stuff like that, or brands that are copyrighted, but you are maybe selling products that are associated with the brand, or if you have a brand that's really similar to that one and you're infringing on their copyright. So the way this works, and this is something that's in the patent, but you need to understand that when a company files a patent, they're not under any obligation to define or go into great detail as to how that system works. What they need to do is explain how the system is going to work, but not go into details or go into the weeds about that system. And so, but this is enough information for someone like me to go into and understand how this is going to work. And I would go so far as to say how this is working right now. So if you're serious about SEO and Google search algorithm, this is probably where you should start. You should go and check out their patents. But I'm just going to discuss the latest one because I think this is already being implemented. This is already running on Google's backend, especially after the latest update. So before I go into the video, I just want to say, I also do SEO for a living. You can go to cloudsceodubai.com, but I also offer topical mapping services and website audit services. So if you're having a problem ranking a website, need help maybe doing SEO for your site, you can go in there, buy the service, and I can start working for you. Also, if you're looking for monthly SEO, you can click the link in the description, which goes to Google's form. You can fill out the form, and I will get in touch with you, and we can discuss what you need, and then go from there. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. The company filed a patent application for a system to protect against exposure to content that violates a content policy. As the name implies, the system hides content items based on whether or not it violates a platform's policies, using a machine learning algorithm to make that determination. Now, this is probably going to be the most important thing to keep in mind as we go into this. The system relies on a machine learning model that's trained to identify when content isn't in line with the platform's content policy. So, in other words, they have a pattern that the search engine will match to the pattern of the content. Google says that the system may tackle a broad array of content. So this will include text, images, videos, and sound. If the content surpasses a certain threshold, within it's withheld from going viral, which means, again, as I said earlier, if it doesn't meet that minimum threshold of similarity to the type of content Google wants to see, it's not going to go viral, or it's not going to be shown. So Google's method uses what's called a proportional response system to make determinations about content items in batches. So essentially, what it does, it's figuring out what percentage amount of content within the batch surpasses the threshold. So let's say that the content pattern is 100% that Google has set up, but you publish content, you publish a blog post that's 60% identical to the pattern or matches the pattern to what Google has on the back end. If that's the case, you might pass. Or Google might set the threshold at 80%. So if you're 60%, you're not going to pass, you're not going to rank, or you're not going to show. So you need to be 80%. The problem here is that Google doesn't tell you what the threshold is set at. And that's something where SEO comes in. So however, Google doesn't stop at AI-based flagging systems. Now, I don't think this is AI, but Google likes to call it that. Google doesn't stop at AI-based flagging systems. If the machine learning model is stumped by a particular batch of content, the system requests a human reviewer. Now, if you remember from my previous video, one of my previous videos, I talked about human reviewers not being involved until the algorithm can figure out what to do with the content. And so this is where the human review comes in, because if the machine learning algorithm can figure out what's going on with the video or what's going on with the blog post, or whether or not the blog post meets the guidelines that Google has set, it's flagged for a human reviewer. And usually what that means is that your content is hanging in limbo. It might be discovered not indexed, crawl not indexed, until a human reviewer has gone through the content. Usually it's not even indexed. It's not even discovered. My assumption is it will be discovered, not indexed. So if you go to Google Search Console, it will show a discovered and not indexed. So according to Google, the system could prevent content with adult themes, such as videos with alcohol, firearms, or tobacco, from being served to impressionable audiences without needing a human reviewer to categorize every single content item that gets posted to its platform. Its system could also mitigate inappropriate content from being incorrectly flagged as safe for all audiences. Now, what Google is making this look like is this is something maybe it's just for YouTube, or maybe just for social media. But in fact, this will apply to every other bit of content as well, including images, as I said earlier. Reasonably, I think that Google is already doing this. I think it's reasonable to think that this system is already being implemented. At least it started out with blog posts or text content and images, and now this is being rolled out for. Now, if you look at the diagram over here, the interesting thing is, people who dispute that Google is a pattern matching search engine just need to look at this diagram over here. So it says 402, which is right at the top. I've put this on the screen. It says receive a plurality of content items, including a first set of content items associated with a content group. So mainly is pulling out what's called entities, and it's looking at the entities to see what these entities represent. So that's the first step. The second step is 404. It's determine a measurement associated with the amount of the first set. So the first set has been taken out. So the first set of entities, and then there's a second set of entities which are called secondary entities, which are associated with the primary entity. So determine a measurement associated with the amount of the first set of content items belonging to a specific content category. And so now once those entities have been extracted from your content, it's associated with a category of content. As I said, matches a pattern. What kind of pattern does this match? Is it informational content? Is it commercial content? Is it a landing page content? Is it service-based content? Is it product description? And what kind of content is this? So this is the second step for Google to identify. Then what it does is perform an operation using the measurement and the threshold. So now it's taking the content, it's matching it against the predefined set of rules that Google has set for the content to pass in order for the content to be shown to their respective audiences. And this is 406. So and then from here it branches off to two possibilities. So the first one is assign one or more of the plurality of content items to be categorized by at least one of the machine learning algorithms or a manual review process. So what this means is actually, if this passes, publish the content or show the content. If the algorithm can understand that it will pass or not pass, I'll flag it for a human review. The second possibility is automatically apply the specific content category to one or more of the other content. So Google understands what the content is, applies a category to it automatically, such that one or more of the other content items are not reviewed by the manual process, and in which case it doesn't need to be manually reviewed. So there are two possibilities. A, it's flagged for human review because it can't understand what's going on, and B, it understands what's going on, assigns a category to it, and lets it go through or publishes it. Finally, transmit the plurality of content items. So obviously it gets published, it gets shown, it gets indexed, and people get to see it. So the problem here is that a lot of this is just a diagram. And if I read through the patent, there's a link in the description. You click the link and you're going to read what the entire patent has, and it's very vague. And so this is maybe the gist of it, of how this works. But I think this has been something that Google has been doing for many, many years. It's just that now they're maybe rolling it out for social media, and in particular for YouTube, and also for social media in general. And then also, media heavy websites. So, website that has a lot of video content, or a lot of images and video content. And I know a lot of blogs that do this. And so then Google will be able to look at that content and decide whether or not it wants to show that content to its audience based on who is searching for it. So I hope you guys liked the video. Let me know what you think of this algorithm, and if you read through the patent, and if you think that this is already being implemented. Like and subscribe, and I'll check you guys out in the next video.